everybody out there.
So with all these tapes coming out, do you think that Drumpf has got Omarosa nervosa? It could be a new disease for us to study. Omarosa, you are so scary.
When this dead hand moves, the monster created by a man they called Mad is turned loose to strike terror into the hearts of men.
I don't know if it's just me, or do you guys notice subtle changes in the media environment online these days? Subtle messages coming through at you, or not so subtle. Every time I go on YouTube, which is less and less these days because other than a few important people that I consider friends of mine, I'm trying to avoid most of the mainstream crap that they shove down your throat or attempt to shove down your throat. Everywhere voices are being silenced a little at a time. Small increments perhaps, so that one doesn't immediately notice the effect. But nevertheless, it's the shrinkage. It's shrinkage. It's shrinkage of ideas. You can have any number of ideas, but only the officially approved ideas will be on social media in the future, very near future, a little bit at a time, Their major media conglomerates are now squeezing smaller productions out and going towards a model that is more corporate friendly. Without a diversity of viewpoints, media becomes nothing more than a mindless propagandistic machine. So we willingly engage in active fantasies while they sell us things that we don't need. So Tom Perez and the DNC have decided to take some of that money from fossil fuel companies. Remember, they unanimously voted to get rid of the donations from PACs that were fuel companies and Koch brothers and that sort of thing. Well, they changed their minds 2 months later. Just kidding. What a way to energize a progressive base. Honestly, these people will never learn because they can't resist the cash. I don't know what it is about people. It's like in The Hobbit, the dragon sickness, where people want all these things that they don't need. And somebody very wise once said that the first 50 years of your life are spent acquiring stuff and the last 20 getting rid of it. And you young folks that are still not acquiring stuff, congratulations for not acquiring stuff. But if you do, believe me, most of it's not worth acquiring. I think the thing with these rich and powerful people is that they know that things on this planet are unsustainable, but they don't care because they believe that they can insulate themselves from the consequences of their action. Fossil fuel subsidies actually are $20 billion a year. $20 billion a year for big, profitable, mega polluting fossil fuel companies. But they want more. I suppose you folks in America have heard about ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Committee. They're pushing for even less restrictions on any fossil fuel. They're pushing a legislative agenda that writes into the law that gerrymandering is perfectly acceptable. They're pushing a lot of really nasty things. This pro-corporate, I don't even know what to call it, think tank, cabal, protection racket, And people are like on a hamster wheel. They're running faster and faster, and they're not getting anywhere, and they're getting frustrated. And because nobody is addressing any of the important concerns that benefit all humans, not just a few elitists. This has been ignored for 40 years, and we have all of the safety nets have been gradually chipped away little by little, just so you don't notice. If they had changed things all at once, there would have been riots in the streets. But no, it's very subtle manipulation of currency. It's very subtle manipulation of interest rates. It's loan sharking, for God's sakes. How much money do these cash now places rip off from consumers year after year? How much money do they remove from the economy? Money that those lower income people could spend perhaps on local goods and services. There's an idea whose time has gone. Why? It's what we need to return to, is a localization of the economy, to actually use neighborhood businesses as much as possible. And these small businesses have everything stacked against them, everything. Their prices go up because of Trump's tariffs, and what's going to happen to their small businesses? Well, they've got to pass that on to the customer. And of course, inflation is the biggest scam going. That's calling the inflation rate at 2% or 1% or whatever the hell lie they choose to provide in the government statistics. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Not when you're actually paying bills and trying to stay on top of things. Inflation isn't 1 or 2%. If it was, maybe people could relax a little bit and not be running on the hamster wheel ever faster with treats just slightly out of reach for you. They keep it just slightly out of reach for you. And then they say, oh no, you can have a loan. Don't worry, you can have it today. Sign on the dotted line. Don't pay attention to those numbers. Those are for us educated people. Don't worry about those. And credit cards. How can they get away with the kind of usurious interest rates that they charge? It's insane. I would never carry a balance on a credit card. I am lucky enough to not have to. But many, many people use that to get through their daily life, and they dig themselves in deeper and deeper and deeper. And debt is a form of slavery. It's used to control and own people. Particularly usurious debt with interest rates up to 29%. This is insane, or hundreds of percent in these payday loan scams that are allowed to operate on every street corner. Once upon a time, they would have been considered criminal enterprises, but not today. No, we're more enlightened than that, and we can turn the poor upside down and shake them and see if there's any pennies that drop out of their pockets that we might have missed. It's poor people. It's poor people that have no power, that have no voice, that have no way of changing the situation they're in, because they're running harder and harder and faster and getting fewer and fewer crumbs come down in the hamster wheel. How long? How long can people hold out hope for life, for decency, for a warm, comfortable place to live? These things shouldn't be luxuries. They should be human rights. Housing, enough food to eat. There's no reason we have to do this. There's no reason we have to run a society like this. And young people don't realize how much better it was in the system before Ronnie Reagan's changed everything, and everything turned slowly to shit, bit by bit, more by more, deeper and deeper. So they don't know how good government can be when it works for the people. They don't have any concept of that anymore. So they don't see the possibility of overturning what has been a radical upending of Keynesian economics, which worked really well after the Second World War to rebuild wealth. But it was abandoned for trickle-down economics, some stupid failed theory that is now 50 years on, implemented, and has never worked once. It doesn't work. Giving rich people more money does not work, because rich people, the ultra rich, have to have a disease in order to want to be the ultra rich. Who the hell in their right mind needs to have $1 billion? Who? What can you buy? You get to a point where you can buy anything, and then it's just numbers, but they hoard those numbers just like a hoarder that saves every piece of crap that comes into their house until you can't move in there. It's the same thing with these money people. It's absolutely the only thing they understand is more. They want everything. They want to turn the poor upside down, shake them till the pennies come out of their pockets, grab their last few pennies, and say, "See you later, I'm going to my island hideaway." These people forget one thing, that the rest of us are human, and we can see through their inhumanity, their utter contempt for the poor, their utter contempt for freedom of thought, their utter contempt for freedom of belief, the utter contempt for the concept of freedom, because they want an authoritarian society where you're told what to do, and enough people are stupid enough to go along with it, and it gets worse and worse and worse. Silence is death. Silence in the face of insanity is death. We are headed on a huge calamitous journey on this planet because of the greed of the 0.01%, because of the sickness that infects people that need more and more and more. Their lives must be completely devoid of any meaning, of any truth, of any beauty. No matter how much money they acquire, they can't spend it fast enough. And when they do spend it, they don't care about the things that they buy. They just want to own it. So they want to have things that you can't have. That's the whole motivation.